Welcome to Chp2T2 Services Marketing. In this video, we will discuss the pre-purchase stage of service consumption. By the end of the video, you will be able to describe the various theories and concepts that are relevant to the pre-purchase stage of service consumption. You will also be able to differentiate the rules of the multi-attribute model and also distinguish between the different service attributes, describe different kinds of perceived risks, and provide examples of how to overcome them. You can also list the factors influencing consumer expectations of service and describe the interplay between desired service, adequate service, and zone of tolerance. To put things into context, there are three stages in the service consumption process. They are the pre-purchase stage, service encounter stage, and post-purchase stage. This video discusses the pre-purchase stage. The pre-purchase stage begins with the awareness of need. This continues through information search, evaluation of alternatives, and then the purchase decision. Let's begin with needs awareness. When someone chooses to buy something, it is triggered by an underlying need, also called need arousal. Needs may be triggered by our unconscious minds, physical conditions, or external sources. Let's use the example of a 3-week holiday to Europe. The trigger, if through our unconscious minds, may be the need to be seen as part of the group of people who are wealthy enough to go on an extended holiday to Europe. If the trigger is a physical condition, perhaps going on a holiday is due to being very tired and fatigued from work and wanting to take a break from all the stress. External sources could be that you saw a newspaper advertisement of a holiday to Europe at a very good deal. After need awareness, customers are motivated to search for information. Several alternatives can come to mind, and this forms the evoked set. For the holidays, for example, after seeing the advertisement on a European holiday from maybe CTC Travel, you may also have other travel agents like Chan Brothers, SA Tours, Commonwealth Travel, and Namho Travel that come to mind. Together, these form the evoked set for you. And the evoked set are the choices that come to mind. An evoked set can come from past experience, advertising messages, retail displays, and recommendations from friends, etc. In the example we have, there are 4 alternatives to choose from. Consumers are unlikely to use all the available alternatives to make a choice. They will usually narrow down to a few alternatives. In this instance, perhaps the choice is between Chan Brothers and SA Tours because of the perceived better service from these 2 agencies. These 2 alternatives then form the consideration set. During the search process, consumers also learn about the service attributes they should consider and form expectations of how the company may perform on those attributes under consideration. For example, we may consider the dates of departure, the flight timings, the price, the class of accommodations as attributes in our selection of whether to go with Chan Brothers or SA Tours. In the evaluation of alternatives, the key concepts are the multi-attribute model, service attributes, perceived risks, and service expectations. I will elaborate on these concepts one by one in the next few slides. In the multi-attribute model, there are a few components. First is the list of attributes that we consider to be important in the service. Next are the importance weights that measure how important these services are. We rank the attributes from the most important to the least important. The importance weights should add up to 100%. Then we have our alternative services and we rate them on each of the attributes. Hence, in our example, Safety is the most important attribute, followed by departure time of flight, duration of flight, seat comfort, and price, etc. The importance weights are on the right, and our 3 airline alternatives have been rated on each of the attributes. Using the multi-attribute model, there are 2 ways that customers can make decisions. Using the different rules may result in a different decision. The first is the linear compensatory rule. Under this rule, what you need to do is to take your rating of a service and multiply it by the weight. In this instance, for Lufthansa, for example, you take 10 times 0.25, then next, time of flight departure 9 times 0.2, and then flight time duration 10 times 0.2, and then seat comfort 7 times 0.15, etc., and go all the way down. At the end of it, you add up the total score and it will be 8.6. So the total for Lufthansa is 8.6, for British Airways is 7.5, and for SIA is 7.8. So if you use this rule to make decisions, then your choice would be Lufthansa. The next rule is the conjunctive rule. In this rule, the consumer will make the decision based on the total overall score in conjunction with minimum performance levels on one or several attributes. For example, if we look at safety, all 3 airlines score the same, so that doesn't help us to make our decision. So we need to look at the next attribute. So now we look at time of flight. If to us, time of flight needs to be at least 10, then in this instance, only SIA meets that criteria, and the decision is to go with SIA. If none of the brands meets all the cut-off in a conjunctive model, then the consumer may delay making a decision, change the decision rule, or modify the cut-offs. So, what are the implications for marketers if consumers make decisions in this way? Marketing communications play a big part here as service providers try to influence the decision-making process of their target customers. First, companies need to try to get into the consideration set. They can do advertising or viral marketing to maintain awareness. Second, firms need to change or correct consumer perceptions if necessary. For example, if customers think that a hospital services are very expensive when in reality it is not, then the hospital can perhaps advertise or display its price ranges and compare that to the average of other hospitals. Third, firms can also shift importance weight. In our earlier example on the 3 airlines, British Airways may want to say that while the flight departure and duration times may not be as ideal, if a traveller is a leisure traveller, then price can make up for it compared to Lufthansa. Finally, firms can introduce new attributes. For example, nowadays, consumers are becoming more and more environmentally conscious, and firms can increase awareness on how they are taking specific actions on being socially responsible, for example, and hence attract these consumers. Next, we look at service attributes. The multi-attribute model assumes that consumers can evaluate all attributes before purchase. However, this is often not the case in many services. Some attributes are harder to evaluate. There are 3 kinds of attributes. First are search attributes. These are often the easiest to evaluate. Search attributes are tangible elements of a service. For example, you can take a look at a hotel room, see the price list of hairstyling services, and know the location of a good restaurant. These are all tangible aspects of the service. The second type of attribute is the experience attribute. Experience attributes cannot be evaluated before purchase. Customers must experience the service before being able to make a judgment. Let's use the example of the hotel room. While you can see pictures of a hotel room, you will not know the comfort of the ambience or the service levels of the hotel staff until you experience it. Take education as another example. You can see the facilities like the classroom and library, but you will not know about the quality of your lecturers until you attend the class. Holidays and entertainment performance also have high experience attributes. Another class of attributes is the credence attributes. These are attributes that are hard to evaluate even after consumption. For example, unless you have the expertise, you will not know how good a job your car mechanic has done during the car servicing. For medical services also, it is often difficult to judge whether the doctor has done a good job. Does it mean that a surgeon whose patient has passed away is not as good as one whose patient lived? For these kinds of services, consumer choice depends on their confidence about the skills and professionalism of the service provider. The harder it is to evaluate a service, the higher the perceived risk that the customer feels when making a purchase decision. Let's discuss perceived risk next. Perceived risk is the uncertainty one feels when considering whether or not to use a service. There are 7 kinds of perceived risk. The first is functional risk. Functional risk is the uncertainty about whether there will be a satisfactory performance outcome. In other words, does the service deliver what it says it delivers? For example, will an education at Unisim really help me to achieve my career goals? Or will the medication that the doctor prescribes really help me to get better? Next is financial risk. Financial risk is monetary loss or unexpected costs. For example, what if there are hidden costs in the tour package that is priced less than the average? Or, will the medical consultation cost more than anticipated? Or, will my credit card information be stolen if I use it to make an online payment? Next is temporal risk. Temporal risk relates to the risk of wasting time or facing the consequences of delays. For example, will I have to queue for a long time before being able to get a table at a popular restaurant? Will the laptop be repaired on time for my use for a big presentation? Next is physical risk. Physical risk is the risk of personal injury or damage to one's possessions. For example, one may worry whether checking in a fragile item instead of carrying it on board will result in damage. Or, what if the LASIK treatment fails and my eyesight is damaged? Next is psychological risk. These relate to personal fears and emotions. Let's continue with the example of LASIK treatment. Not only is there a physical risk, there can also be a psychological risk like fear of pain. People may be scared of getting on a plane after reading about a lot of news about air crashes. Next, social risk. This relates to how others will think or react. I recall when I was young, my mother often forced me to go to the hairdresser, and the end result is a haircut that is so short that it makes me look like a boy. I was always very embarrassed to go to school the next day for fear of what my friends would say about how I look. The last type of risk is the sensory risk. This relates to unwanted effects on any of the 5 senses. This may range from whether the food in a restaurant will taste good, to whether we will be disturbed by people giving a running commentary while we're watching a movie, to whether we will be able to withstand the cold of winter when we go on a holiday. How can consumers handle perceived risks? There are a few ways. First, they can seek information from trusted sources like friends and families. Next, they can check the internet and make comparisons between the prices and offerings of different providers. Next, they can rely on trusted brands with good reputations. Or they can look for service guarantees or warranties. Lastly, they can visit facilities or try different aspects of service first before they make a decision. Next, how can firms reduce the risk perception of prospective customers? Some suitable strategies include the following. They can encourage prospective customers to preview the service through brochures or websites or videos. For example, many hotel websites show photos of the room and facilities, and some even allow you to have a virtual tour of the hotel. If it is convenient, firms can also encourage prospective customers to visit the facilities to have a look. For example, you can take a look at the room in a hotel before deciding to book. Or you can go on a campus tour during open house before signing up with a university. Companies can also offer free trials, especially if the service is high in experience attributes. For example, you can have a trial class for hip-hop dancing before deciding whether to sign up for it or not. For services high in credence attributes like medical services or legal services, for example, professional qualifications and certificates can be displayed. Many professional firms have websites that show the credentials of their staff or even showcase success stories. Lastly, companies can offer service guarantees to allay the fears and uncertainty faced by prospective customers. Customers can assess attributes and risks related to a service offering. In the process, they develop expectations of a service. Let us next look at service expectations. First, desired service. Desired service is the wished-for level of service. This desired service is based on personal needs as well as the belief about what is possible. For example, my personal need is that I would like to slim down. I hope that signing up for a weight loss program can help me to lose 20 kgs. The desired level of service is affected by explicit or implicit promises made by the service providers, or word of mouth from others, or one's own past experiences. Maybe I heard from a friend that a particular company is very effective in helping people to lose weight. Most people, however, are also realistic, and they know that they may not always get their wished-for level of service. Hence, they have the minimum level of service that they can accept without feeling dissatisfied. This is called adequate service. The idea of adequate service can be formed from what competitors are offering or from situational factors, like for example, how good they are in sticking to a certain kind of diet or exercise routine in order to lose weight. The predicted level of service is what prospective customers anticipate that they will actually receive. This directly affects how customers define adequate service. Predicted service, like desired service, can also be influenced by explicit or implicit promises made by service providers, word of mouth, or past experiences. For example, if I have signed up for the previous slimming packages before, then I may think that as long as the slimming program helps me to reduce my weight by 10 kgs, I will be satisfied, even though I really desire to reduce my weight by 20 kgs. Maybe from past experience, I know that I myself don't have the patience or the strictness to adhere to a strict diet routine. Zone of tolerance. The zone of tolerance is the difference between the desired service level and the adequate service level. The zone of tolerance can be larger or smaller depending on factors like the price paid, what competing companies are offering, and how important certain service attributes are to the customer. It may also vary depending on the occasion, even if it is for the same customer. For example, your expectations of service will be very different if you're celebrating Valentine's Day with your loved one at a restaurant compared to when you're just dining casually at the same restaurant with a group of friends. What we have just covered for this video are all the important theories and concepts for the pre-purchase stage of service consumption. In the next video, we will discuss the important theories and concepts of the service encounter stage.